One of the things that I often always have to come back to is the fact that being a mystic and walking this path is one of the most, I would say, no, I wouldn't say one of them. I would say probably the most hardest path that a human could walk. It is a very lonely path. It is a path that very few can follow. It is a path that many pretend to follow. They are pretend mystics. They don't do the work. They just create a projection of someone that looks like they've done their work. So in this field of spirituality, mysticism, the esoterica, the occult knowledge, all the rest of it, you will find more people that are like quacks. You'll find a lot of narcissists hide out in this field. And the ones that are authentic, they're very few. And finding them, when you do find them, you really know. It's like it just hits different. All right. Being an empath is the biggest blessing a human can have, and it is often the biggest curse that a human could possibly have. And if you're not familiar with what an empath is, it is someone who has a very uncanny ability to influence others, pick up emotions on people, on things, and they are very able to differentiate the difference between someone just saying something and someone actually, like, what their energy is really saying. Because people can say something, but it doesn't mean they believe it. It doesn't mean that they feel it. So being an empath is someone who is hyper sensitive to the emotional body of another human, and to animals, and to the world, and to nature. And given the state of the world that we're in now, you will see that we are heading into a very, very heavy time. Pluto just moved into basically a very strange position, which is positioned, it's going to be positioned there for about 200 years. And we know what Pluto means. In astrology, we know what that means. And so we are heading into a time now where things are really, really heating up. And so now the healers and the mystics out there, we don't have the luxury or the time, keyword here, time, to just sit idle and, retreat from the world. Because as the temperature of the water of the world gets higher and higher, then I often think to myself that in the world, if one energy begins to rise somewhere, that somewhere else in the world, an equal or opposite energy has to rise somewhere else. This is all part of the Earth's balance. So in the mystical world and in the psychological world where I tend to dwell, this is the sea, or the part of the sea that I live in, we have that as well. We have empaths, and we have narcissists and psychopaths. Okay? Both are complete polarities of each other, extraordinarily so. So you've got one that absorbs everything deeply and emotionally and can really sympathize with how someone feels. These are the healers. These are people that can go just beyond, just chat intelligence. They're sponges. They feel the symptoms of other people's pain, almost like in a neurological way, in a physical way. They're mirrors. And then you've got the narcissists, which just don't feel that at all. They don't have any empathy, and they don't care. And in this world, the narcissists are generally the ones that do the best in terms of material gain, because they know how to manipulate people, they know how to play the system, they know how to use you, they can false mirror you to get something from you and then discard you when they're done. But the empath, the ability to live in this world and be an empath and be so emotionally vulnerable to all of the influences and forces of things around you, this is the most powerful thing that you can have once you begin to master the truth of an empath. And so this is my take on it. Empaths are much like a fish. If you put an empath in a toxic environment, it will poison them. If you put a fish in filthy, polluted water with negative, fucked up people, it kills them. If you put empaths with people that are positive, uplifting, take responsibility, take accountability, they're not emotional vampires, the empath will thrive. And even more, the empath will actually raise and lift the frequency up of others. So you may know and you may have heard that when an empath reaches a point within their life where they are done, they can't take it anymore, and they begin to realize that the thing that I've had to realize as well, which is I have to become a monster. Right now, personally, I'm in my monster empath phase. I don't have empathy anymore for people that don't take responsibility for their life. I don't have empathy for people that lie or manipulate. And as an empath, it is very, very difficult to manipulate me. It will not work. Okay? My psychic level of intuition can pick up on subtle cues and energy shifts in someone else's body like a bloodhound. And so what often can happen, and what I'm going to be looking at here as well, is that at some point the empath has to choose themselves. They have to pull away. They have to become the narcissist's worst fucking nightmare. Okay? And so this is a phase where power and choosing yourself really, really matters. It really comes into play. This could be in a workplace. It could be in a friendship. It could be in a relationship. It could be, mostly with your colleagues. We know that in any environment, the empath, the one who is the most emotional, they're like the super spreaders of energy. They can influence the mood of an entire room. And this can be a really, really positive thing. If an empath is in a really good mood, they can really uplift the whole group, regardless of the status of the group. Okay? Empaths and mystics secretly really set the tone for life, for people in groups. And they can be so productive and positive for environments. But if the empath has trouble setting healthy boundaries and puts others before themselves, which can often happen, codependent relationships happen, and the empath basically gets used and fucked. And then over time, what will have to happen is the empath will have to choose their own emotional self first and learn that at some point, they're just done. And because the empath knows all of the secrets, it's like having nuclear codes. Once the empath sees you, the real you, the one underneath the mask, the empath can do maximum damage with little effort. When the empath reaches breaking point and they're overloaded and it's just been one lie, one manipulation after the next, you'll reach a point where my savior complex for people is gone. And now I'm in a phase where I'm very dangerous. And I'm very, very dangerous in this way. And this is not me stating this because I'm a narcissist or because I'm telling you something about myself that makes me powerful. You have to understand that true power is empathy and vulnerability. Anyone can destroy something in seconds. That's easy. But to heal something, to rebuild something, to nurture something, to grow something, that is hard. That takes patience. It takes control. So just because you have the power doesn't mean that you should be using it on people. I look at charts, I look at stars, I look at planetary correlations, I look at energy patterns, I look at frequencies of humans. And if I wanted to, I was even considering doing a series on how to love the signs. Or I could do a series which could be how to destroy the signs. You've got that Leo boss that's some narcissistic bitch. I can tell you how to completely fuck her up if I want. But what would be the point of that? What would be the point of that, spreading that level of information? You've got to have the capacity to understand discipline. It's courage. And having a level of discipline is a level of knowing your responsibility, and having an extraordinary amount of awareness puts you in a place and in an advantage point over others that is like an eagle with pigeons. And this is not how a narcissist would see it, where it's like the narcissist sees themselves as some beautiful, powerful eagle and everyone else is just food to them. This is the empath being an eagle and knowing that it only needs to swoop down when it needs to. It doesn't need to attack. It doesn't need to play mind game warfare with people and all of the fuckery. It doesn't need to be superficial. It sits in deep silence. That's one thing that I'm understanding about myself, and something that I treasure more than anything. As an artist and as a mystic, the biggest gift you can give me is silence. Silence and space is the gift to the empath that the empath and the artist needs. Because in that silence and in that space, that is where power and stillness is. Okay? So a lot of empaths, you'll see, they isolate, they cut off themselves from the world, and a lot of them have to do this now. You will see a lot of people just checking out from other people at this point because they can't do it anymore. They cannot be in such a spiritually filthy, emotional frequency. And a lot of us are now realizing we have to be able to preserve ourselves so that we can live. Because the world is getting so dark and it is not interested in the reflection of itself back to itself. Most people don't have the skill sets to do that now. They've been programmed and conditioned to be like this. They don't have any level of self-awareness. It's all about them. It's all about me. It's all about how much I can get, how I look. And this is where we're at. We're living in a fractured, fragmented society that thrives on admiration. It's not oneness anymore. So a lot of us out there, a lot of mystics and empaths, we have to go and separate ourselves now. We have to choose ourselves, because being in a very dangerous imbalance with others, where we don't have healthy boundaries with people, you're just going to get stomped on. You're going to get stepped on. You're going to be completely used. And this is how it is. And so a lot of empaths are a narcissist's wet dream. That's why the empath is always a target from a narcissist, because the narcissist uses the empath. The empath sees this form of like self-sacrifice that they put to the narcissist. So giving them more, giving them the benefit of the doubt, giving them their strength. But narcissists can only have relationships with people when it serves them a function. Narcissists aren't plugged in emotionally into empathy and understanding or caring about how they impact other people. So when you finally get to a point within yourself where you basically just stop reacting to all of the emotional manipulation, and you stop having to explain yourself and justify yourself and defend yourself constantly to people and to things, you begin to realize that you have been carrying something that was actually never yours to carry in the first place. And that's when the moment begins to, that moment when you realize that's when everything begins to change. You have to take sovereignty within yourself as an empath. Because when that shift happens and when you finally get it and you finally detach, you're not playing their games anymore. You're not becoming emotionally entangled with their nonsense and their lies. That becomes terrifying to the narcissist, because the empath is no longer a predictable source of supply to them. They're no longer soothing the narcissist's wounds and validating their inflated ego. When you go quiet, when you go dark, when you go silent, when you become detached, that is the ultimate threat to the narcissist. When the narcissist cannot control someone anymore, they're no longer emotionally entangled with you, and you begin to just not give them anything to feed off and just shut down. This really, by the way, is one of the hardest things that you can go through. Because when you've had a relationship with a narcissist, the relationship never actually ends, even though you may get away from them. The echo and those octopus tentacles that they've got wrapped around you are still very much there for the rest of your life. Because being in a relationship with a narcissist, it reprograms your brain. So you have to have a lot of strength in the years that follow after you get away from them to be able to reprogram and re-hardwire yourself from the psychological damage that they do to you. And you have to always come back to the clarity of why you did it, and keep repeating that you did the right thing, that you couldn't stay in that emotional abuse anymore, and you chose your peace, you chose yourself, you chose to step away from this dance. A really good analogy, which I really love, and I often use this one sometimes with my clients, is say if we're on the dance floor and we're dancing, and I'm kind of doing, like a freestyle kind of flowy dance, and they've been doing that with me for a long time. I can't control the dance floor. I can't control the music. I can't control how they're dancing with me. But what I can do, I can control how I dance. I can control the movements that I make on the dance floor. So it's like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. Nah, I'm sick of this dance. This dance has been done. I'm over it. And fundamentally, I'm ready to move on. So once you change your dance style, what you're doing is you're changing the framework of you to them. And this will send them into a meltdown. But ultimately, what's going to have to happen here is they are either going to change their dance to match your dance, or they're not. And that's okay. We don't want to change people, but what we're doing is we're controlling how we're moving. And with our logic and our reason. Because someone that has been complacent to a narcissist for a long period of time, it wears you down. And it makes you feel like you can't change your style. You can't move. And that's exactly where they want you, under their control. So they have authority over you. But remember, it's an illusion. And a lot of the time that you think you don't have control or you don't have any level of way out and no options, remember, you do have options. You can control how you move, how you react. Okay, so even in an argument, I want you to understand something, and I often see this with a lot of people. I will not engage with many people because I understand that an argument with a narcissist is completely a waste of time. You'll never win an argument with a narcissist because an argument with a narcissist is not based on the argument or the topic at hand. To them, it's about control. It's about shifting blame, about distorting reality to maintain their sense of superiority or victimhood. They don't debate you to understand. They debate to dominate you. They don't listen to hear. They listen to gather ammunition. Okay, so in these dynamics of logic is completely irrelevant. That's why talking to a lot of like really woke, indoctrinated people, most of them are narcissistic or on the Machiavellian scale of psychopathy. Even if I presented the clearest, most undeniable, reasonable explanations and straight up facts of how they are wrong in an argument, every single time they will twist it, deflect it, or completely ignore the facts because it doesn't fit the narrative of their control. Do you understand? So once you pull away, once you stop engaging with them, the narcissist has nowhere else to go because we're not doing this anymore. We're not bending down. We're not tolerating this bullshit. We're not apologizing. We're not going to give them our emotional compliance. Fuck that. And that's why narcissists are so attracted and love to entangle themselves with empaths. Narcissists do not want to resolve conflict. They don't like it. They don't want resolution. They want to be in a state of power that perpetually puts them above you in whatever way that can be. And a lot of the time, it's all about being a victim. And a lot of these people are all caught up, and not just narcissists, a lot of people are caught up in this victim mindset where being the victim gives them all the power in the world. And I can't stand it. There's no pity parties at my door. So as an empath, you can see that the narcissist or these people, they're not confronting what they need to see. People only want to see what they want to see. And I know that as a mystic, I see it every day. They can try and guilt trip you. They can play the victim. They can shift into love bombing attempts to try and restore power, but it's just another trap. It's another pitfall. You'd open the door and you take one step and you fall straight back down. When you begin to see the pattern and you're over it and you're done, it's over. You reclaim your power. You step away from these people. And this is where I want to bring up the point of today's topic. When the empath becomes a monster. When you decide, fuck it, I'm going to strike back and I'm going to cause maximum damage because I know their insecurities, their hidden shames, and their secret fears. I know exactly what to do. I've absorbed it. I've processed it. I've seen it in my face for years. And sometimes when people push you too far for too long, it's time to go to those nuclear codes. It's time to go in there and press those buttons and say something that could be so truthfully hard, because nothing can actually hurt us unless it's true. I am a Sagittarius stellium. A lot of 12th house placements. That's why my strength lies in my solitude away from humans. As I'm getting older, I'm actually, and this is not a narcissistic thing, it's just me realizing that perhaps my service here is actually called somewhere else beyond this, beyond stupid human pain and their nonsense. With the demons or with the angels, perhaps. Because it's the same old thing with these humans. It always has been. So, you know, when you pull away, you've got this power and you regain that strength. I hope you're getting strength out of me talking about this right now, because this goes deeper than revenge. When you start to see how things are actually going in this world, fundamentally something really fucking shifts inside of you. Most people's drama is manufactured. It's self-inflicted. And as you start to ascend as a mystic, a lot of these trivial issues is just trauma bonding and nothing more. This is not about revenge in the sense of like watching someone else and getting satisfaction out of watching them struggle and watching their whole world collapse. But it's the truth of knowing that you can't prolong something or sustain something that isn't actually real to begin with. So when you choose yourself and you choose healthy boundaries with people, you have to withdraw. You live kind of like a ghost. You're present, but you're not really there. Conversations that are performative, fake smiles and hellos, are all transactional and they mean nothing. Most people are on autopilot and they're living in some kind of simulation with each other on this kind of thing where they mimic each other back to each other, but it's not in the heart. It's completely disconnected. It's weak. So when an empath becomes a monster, it's a moment when we're done. We've been traumatized, we've been pushed too far, we're not doing this anymore. And we wield the one thing that no one can escape. The truth. And that's why those that speak the truth are the most hated, because it breaks the bubble. It breaks the false mask. It breaks the false sense of world that they've created. And they can't escape it because it's in their head. The truth lives in their head. Once you tell the truth to someone and you disarm them from their own lies and you expose them, you will be burned into their head. That's where you live. You'll always live there in their memories and in their head. So you're not becoming a monster because you're bad. You're becoming something entirely else. You're becoming a monster because you've been too good for too long. You were giving all this support, and what the hell were you getting out of it? Nothing. So this is your psyche revolting. And this is healthy. This is all healthy, and it's all part of that transformation that when an empath realizes that this has gone on too long, you have all the weapons now. And you know exactly what to do with it. You know exactly what to do. When you've been pushed past your limits, you'll have a desire to probably want to just burn it all down and just start all over again. You're always validating other people's emotions and no one's seeing you or validating you. Becoming an empath monster is not something to be ashamed of. It's something to be accepted. It's something to be protected. It's part of the evolution of what's happening now out there in the world where we have to become monstrous. We're going through our monster phases now. You're not broken. You're not bad. You're not irredeemable. You are a sensitive soul that has been overwhelmed in an insensitive, fucked up world that is cold and hard. And now we're not becoming cold and hard, we're becoming powerful because we know that we're rising. Like water, empaths flow like water. Think of water. Water can become ice. It can become hard, but it can also melt as well. So out there in the world, the people that are broken, that are rebuilding themselves, the ones that are setting up healthy boundaries with people, this is the monster phase. We're not taking prisoners and we're not fucking around here, right? Think of it like a chrysalis phase, like the dark night of the soul stuff, where it's like you're in this chrysalis, in this cocoon, and you're rebuilding yourself. But like a cocoon, it's vulnerable. It can't be fucked with. It needs time alone. It needs to transform. When a caterpillar goes through that stage of becoming a butterfly, it goes into that chrysalis stage. It's very vulnerable. So it needs lots of alone time to grieve, to process, to feel, transmutate. Transmutation is vulnerability. So when it rises and it comes out of its shell, it's a warrior for the light. It's a warrior to come up against the forces of darkness out there. You can still be an empath and be a monster. That's why I'm at this stage in my life. I isolate. I'm like a sea witch. I live by the sea and I limit my time with people. Unless they are equal or greater than me, unless they're willing to actually do real conscious work within themselves, I will not give my time or my loving energy unless I am paid. That's nothing to be ashamed of because the exchange of energy and time that I'm giving has to be equal to what is being returned and given. That's the only way it can be. It's the only way that it can be. So a lot of the mystics are exiled and I have no problem with it. They'll tell you you're a freak, you're weird. That's all nothing more than them trying to shit can you to their friends so they can try and regain control because you expose them. It doesn't work on me anymore. What other people think of me is none of my business. And if they can't even understand me, why would I even think or worry about what other people think about me anyway? If they can't even understand the being that is before them, then why would I worry about what they have to say about me? Monster empaths is what the world needs. These are people that have walked out of the darkness. They've had to walk down that line. They've had to go into hell. And they've had to destroy themselves and rebirth themselves and come back out of it with compassion and love. And we can heal because we went through it. We went through the darkness. And we survived it. We managed it consciously. So empath energy, although it shuts down when it gets overwhelmed all the time, this is a precious thing to behold in the world, and it needs to be protected and it needs to be directed wisely. All right, so the monster phase is not the end story for you. It's the chapter for you that you might be in or coming into now, and it is an absolutely necessary one. You get to write what comes next. But you have to recognize yourself. You have to look at yourself. You have to work on the shadow aspects. You have to go into all of the darker psychology within yourself so that this cocoon that you're in is not a coffin. It's something that you emerge from. All the things that you've been denying, deflecting, avoiding, disowning, all of the boundaries that were not set, all of that has to be reevaluated and looked at deeply. All the cords have to be traced back to the walls deeply. That is how we do it. That's why in sessions with me, this is all I do. And it makes people very uncomfortable. But the only way we're going to get anywhere is if we tell the truth. As soon as you tell the truth, the sooner you will be free. The sooner we can do something. It's the same conversation I've been having with people for years. When you come over to my house, do you want to have a chat? I'll put the kettle on. Or do you want to play with the dolly sets and play make-believe and pretend? We can play make-believe and pretend. I'd rather not. This is where it's at. And once you understand this and you master this, you will see the path is where it goes forward, and then you know what you have to do. The world needs integrated monster empaths more than ever. If you're out there and you're hearing this, leave a comment below. I hope you've enjoyed this chat from my heart to yours. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to book me for a spiritual consultation, my website link is below, and I have just opened up my Patreon, so please come and find me. I will leave the new Patreon handle below as well. Lots and lots of love to you. Bye.